Now, whether you're an experienced veteran bread maker or whether you've never even considered trying to make your own bread, you will love these no-knead soft dinner rolls. They are fantastic.
Let's see what's cooking. It's time for Yo-Yo-Max12.
Hello everyone, you are going to love how easy these are. Starting off with a tablespoon of yeast, 2 teaspoons of sugar, half a cup of warm water. Give that a stir and let it sit until it gets foamy for about 5 minutes. Now if you're using the instant active dry yeast, you don't have to let it sit to get foamy. You just have to dissolve it into the water and just go on to the next part of the recipe. Now in a large mixing bowl, place 1/4 cup of sugar, less 2 teaspoons, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and 4.5 cups, 600 grams or 20 ounces of flour. Give that a stir and then make a well in the center, a little hole in the center. In there you will pour 1 cup of warm milk and 3.5 tablespoons of butter that's been melted and cooled, and then the yeast, water, and sugar mixture. And then you're going to mix this. You can mix this with a wooden spoon. You do not need electric anything to do this. I use my stand mixer because I have one. So I use a paddle attachment and I just basically stirred it until it looks like it was combined. And it actually happens very quickly. It doesn't take very long at all. Then, as you can see, it's very, very wet and very sticky. But that's okay because you don't have to knead it. All I did was kind of push it to the bottom of the bowl, and then I added a damp, clean cloth on top and put it somewhere warm to rise. And if you look in the description box below, I'll give you examples of those places. Let it rise till it's tripled in volume. As you can see, it's quite fluffy, and I sprinkled a little bit of flour on top, and I just kind of went around and just detached it from the bowl before turning it on to a floured countertop. So you're going to put it onto a floured countertop and then add a little bit of flour on top, and you just want to add enough flour so that you can handle it without it being super duper sticky. Then I cut this large piece into 4 pieces. So once in half, and then each of the halves again in half to get 4 large pieces. And then you're going to take each one of those 4 pieces and cut that into 3 pieces. So you'll end up with 12 pieces when all is said and done. And if it is too sticky to handle, just sprinkle a little bit of flour until you can touch it without it being too sticky. Then take each of those little pieces, flatten it out, and then you're going to bring the edges up to the center to make a circle shape. So just continue to bring the edges up and just go around and around until you get something that's more or less circle shape by pulling it into the center. Now what this does is it creates some tension on the other side, so when you flip it over, you'll see that it's actually nice and smooth. Now you can pop this in your pan just the way it is, but I wanted to make mine more round and more smooth. So what I did is this technique here. You just use your fingers and you gently push it across the countertop. And as you can see, the leading edge when you're pushing kind of curls underneath. And it just makes it for a nice, smooth looking dinner roll when you're done. But if you don't do this, your dinner rolls might be just a little bit lumpier, which is not a big deal. So there we go. I completed a dinner roll. Then you're going to take this and you're going to put it into a baking dish. A 9 by 13 inch baking dish. I lined it with parchment paper and gave it a good spray with cooking spray. And as you can see, and you end up with 12 rolls. Then you're going to cover it with some well-greased plastic wrap. Now I'm saying well-greased plastic wrap because if it's not well-greased, the plastic wrap will stick to your dinner rolls as they're rising, and you may end up with some funky looking dinner rolls that have lots of marks on the top of them. Now you're going to let these rise for about an hour until they are maybe not quite doubled, but very close to it. And as you can see, they fill up the pan completely. Then you're going to bake them at 390 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 to 20 minutes until they are a nice golden brown. Let them cool in the pan a bit, take them out with the parchment paper, put them on a wire rack, and let them cool completely. And you can just see how beautiful they are. They are large and soft, and oh my goodness, and they smell amazing. And as you can see, even though they look like they're all stuck together, they pull apart very easily to individual little dinner rolls. This is going to be my go-to recipe for dinner rolls because it is so easy to do. Now, it's time consuming in the sense that you do have to let everything rise a couple of times, but the actual manual labor part of it is actually very small. There's no kneading, and it's actually very little effort to get these fantastic rolls. Now, the only thing I would do different is I might make them a little bit smaller. I found them a little bit on the big side for a dinner roll, but amazing with a little bit of butter on there. Now, you could easily turn these into hamburger buns by putting them on a cookie sheet and leaving lots of space in between, and that way when they rise, they will take more of a dome shape and look more like a hamburger bun. Now, I think this would be a perfect recipe to use to make these puppy buns. And if you've seen this video, you may remember that I mentioned in the video that I didn't like the bread recipe, that a softer, fluffier recipe would have been better for these. And that's why I think this particular one that I just showed you would be awesome for these. So why don't you give that a try? I'll put the link in the description box and you can click on your screen. Thanks for watching.